Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, chaps. Welcome to the Green Arrow Podcast and Fantasy Football Hub as we approach Game Week 11. My name is Fergie. Adam, welcome back. What colour was your arrow in Game Week 10?
It was a nice green arrow. So I got I know I went up a couple of 100,000 places, 75 points. Took a -4. Didn't really help me at all. If I'd been better off not making any transfers based on that, but overall relatively happy. Kept pace with wildcards. I felt wildcarders, and I feel coming out of this side, my team is equally as strong as most wildcarders. So happy with that. Players that returned for me were Charlie Taylor, got his first goal in 8 years. What a time to do it! What a hero!
Unbelievable.
And I think, having looked at all the permutations, if I'd have bought, because I was toying between Simicast as well and Taylor, but if I'd have bought Simicast in, I would have got Simicast's 6 points and not Gabriel's bench replacement. So it's worked out quite nicely. So really pleased with Charlie Taylor. Cash came off before Villa conceded, and it was a comical. Have you seen the own goal?
Yeah.
Oh, it was embarrassing, and Martinez was not happy losing his clean sheet like that. But I think got too easy for Villa, and I never thought I'd say that in a Premier League game. But and talking of Villa players, DRB, what a performance! He was electric against Luton. He deserved them as well because he's been very close to getting points over the last few weeks, and possibly unlucky not to be given the goal. I don't know if it was going in or not. It was from my angle. I'd have given it him, but yeah, he was great, and so it's a good 13 pointer. Kept Son. I think Son got lucky, if I'm being honest, because I think that clean sheet wipeout really pumped him up on the bonus. But you know that's how the system works, and he obviously got the winning goal. Salah captain. Yeah, I mean that was. I think again he probably got a little bit lucky with the goal that he was given, and Matt Turner's role in it. And then my other returnee was Haaland away at City. So
Blank for
yeah,
Watkins,
all in all,
pretty unbelievable. Given home to Luton.
yeah, it was. And I know a lot of people said he was unlucky and all of that, but he only really had the one chance, and we had I think he had two shots the whole game, and they were both the same chance, and it was an incredible save. If we're being fair, the one thing no one said, I think he might have been offside. I've looked at this a few times, but it was very close because when Cash played it, I'm not sure if he was ahead of the ball or not, but it was pretty close. But he missed it anyway. And apart from that, it was Diaby and Bailey who were the most threatening for Villa. So Watkins, I think he set up Zaniolo and a couple of times for one big chance, but it wasn't his best day. So yeah, all in all, happy. 75 -4. And I think our Green Arrow League is really, I mean, it's changed slightly, but there's not really anything there's nothing in it between the three of us, is there? So
it's crazy. We'll touch on that now. It's so, I don't think it's ever been as close. It's unbelievable, especially after like 10 game weeks. Rich, great to have you back. You had a differential pick last week, which we were all kind of having an hour about, and he came up trumps. Well played.
He did. Got some very nice words from the community on that as well. A lot of people reached out and thanked me and congratulated me on being a little bolder than going for the template. Yeah, agonised over the wild card right up until the deadline, but decided to go with my, the team that I put on the hub last week, or put on the pod last week, and go for the Wilson pick. I think the thing I really liked about it was I was pretty sure that in most of my mini leagues, I would get 100% of his points for everything he returned. And at the moment, not many are going to go there because they're kind of trapped in 3-5-2s with Watkins and Haaland. And my hope was that he hauls over the next 3 weeks, maybe a couple of times. And so, we're on track for that. So hopefully another one. I'm not afraid of the Arsenal game. I'm really looking forward to him playing against Arsenal. He's had a rest in the League Cup. So yeah, that was the highlight for me. Team's pretty similar to the one Adam's just gone through. So there were one or two other changes I deliberated over, but the big thing for me was I went without Son. I sold all my Spurs players early in the week on wildcard. That was a little bit rash of me, I think, and obviously they then played on the Monday and all hauled. And I'd already sold them for, to take the points gains at 0.1s on various gainers around the team, like Watkins and stuff, which I needed to finance. So didn't go back to Son for the deadline, and probably should have done, because he's a player I want back in my team now in the long term. But I'm happy, and my team is slightly different to the template. So that's good. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the stagger unwinds, shall we say.
I'm not going to give you any credit on Wilson. No, seriously, it was a great pick. But that jam for that penalty, oh my!
But he's got
word.
bloody Shah as well.
That's what I was going to say.
0 pointers, didn't they?
It was never. Number one, it was never a penalty, so it should have been overturned. Number two, you had Shah for the assist, where everyone else had 0 pointers, and number three, he nearly missed it as well. It was nearly saved. It was the ultimate jam.
I forgot about that.
But that's brilliant. I mean, that's what those are the things, because that was. I mean, I don't know what the point swing would have been for you with the assist and the Wilson goal.
Yeah, about
that'd have been huge.
Points. Swing,
You deserve a bit of luck, Rich. We all have bad luck.
Yeah.
So when we do get a bit of luck, like Adam and I had Charlie Taylor first goal in 8 weeks, then
exactly. I think that's the first bench point. I think it's the first bench points of any significance I've got for about a season and a half or something. So it's only a 5, but it'll do. I'll take it, especially after the Trippier mauling that I've had for the last 6 weeks. So cool. But yeah, happy days. How did you get on with your wild card, Fergie?
Yeah, happy 74. I think we said last week the whole Matoma versus Diaby versus Bowen thing. There was going to be some big winners and big losers. Obviously, I had Diaby in my draft all week. Ended up going for Matoma, but Diaby for me was. I'm not sure if I wish I'd gone for him. It's just the Luton at the moment. Luton fixture is just target Luton, and I had the opportunity. I didn't. I went for the longer term pick, or medium term pick, more in Matoma, who obviously blanked, but other than that I got Taylor off the bench for Gabriel and subsequently Udogie. So Gabriel was third on my bench. Taylor was second on my bench, so I ended up keeping Udogie as as a first sub. I got wind, obviously he wasn't going to play, so I benched him. Looks like he may not play as well on Monday now, potentially, which is a bit of a pain, but it's what it is. But 74, and I suppose what that kind of means, as Adam alluded to in the Green Arrow mini league, is Rich, you're on 608 points. Adam, you're on 607, and I'm on 605. So there are 3 points between us, which is absolutely. And when you think we've played Adam played his wild card different times. He took a hit this week. Our teams are reasonably different. They're not the same.
They are, aren't they? Yeah, we've got. I was going to say we've got different combinations of players. So
incredible.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how it pans out over the next couple of weeks.
It will, and don't forget, everyone watching and listening can look at their own mini league. Just go to Fantasy Football Hub, My Team mini leagues, and you can look at all the points, the hits, who's captained who, transfers. It's all real time, all live, so you can do it during the game week as well. And there are game week awards. The one I picked up this week, I've got the most template team, so I am the sheep. So at the moment, I've got the most template team out of the three of us. But again, there's about 11 or 12 awards which you can get. So go and check them out for yourself. We've had one or two violin moments before we get on with the podcast. One is a violin moment, and then one is the opposite of whatever the opposite of violin moment is. Trombone moment, I'm not sure. But FPL Gaza, who is in the chat this week, gets the violin moment for this week. He says, even though he had a green arrow, he took out a kanji for cash, which was a surplus of 5 points with his free transfer. Very well played, Gaza. Very well done. But he didn't stop there. He took out Sun, 10 points for Gordon for a -4. He also took out Soberslay, who got 12 points for Martinelli, who only got 3 points for a -8. And this obviously enabled him then to upgrade Edward to Watkins for a -12. So that gave him a net loss of 24 points, which is pretty sensational. But I suppose when you do take out Son against Palace and Szoboszlai against Forest, you may be asking for trouble. But yeah, definitely a violin moment there. And Simon Ashby sent in one. This is more of a trombone moment, I think. He said a friend of mine asked some FPL advice. He said, I suggested Udogi to Tsimikas. He sent me his team this morning and he'd read my message wrong. And instead of bringing in Tsimikas, he'd brought in Tomiyasu. And but as it happened, Tomiyasu came on for Arsenal and he scored his first ever goal in the 95th minute. So that is absolutely sensational. Yeah. I'm assuming that means he actually outscored Tsimikas for the week. So that is the trombone moment of the week. Brilliant stuff. You are both honorary members of the Violin Club. Welcome. And don't forget to send in your submissions every week for a chance to become a member of this very exclusive club. So we're going to touch on Game Week 11, but because there's not too much interesting stuff to go through, we're going to dedicate this podcast to some more kind of macro chat about the season so far, the game itself, how we play the game, and some predictions for the season. So we're not going to spend too long because it's very much a roll week or a kind of save a transfer week. I think lots of people are wild-carded, lots of people have got pretty settled teams. Just looking at the top of the fixture ticker, it doesn't get more boring than Burnley atop for the next 4 game weeks, followed by Sheffield United, followed by Nottingham Forest. You don't get too much more boring than that. Down the bottom, Chelsea's fixtures stiffen significantly now. Look at this for a next 4 for Chelsea. Away to Spurs, home to Man City, away to Newcastle, home to Brighton. It's a bit of a stinker. And Luton and Wolves have also got a tough time of it. But can I just ask, your kind of loose outlook for the next 3 or 4 weeks. You did mention Salah just before we went on air. I won't land you in it and pull a rug out from under. But do you just want to kind of touch on your loose thinking for the next few weeks? Yeah,
I will mention the Salah point because I was looking. I think it was FPL Review, and I was looking at transfer planners, and I know the Hub AI was doing similar for certain teams. Was talking about selling Salah maybe for the Brentford and Man City games. I mean, I'm open. I haven't ruled it out. But then when I looked at his longer term fixtures, I was because originally I was thinking I can't see many calls. Actually, Brentford, I think they'll keep it quite tight at Anfield. Man City, not great. But then it's Fulham, Sheffield United, Palace, and Man United. And I think Fulham at home and Sheffield United away are pretty good fixtures. Crystal Palace, I've got memories of quite a few people. He's done very well at Selhurst Park, and then
came on as a sub that 1 year and scored 2, didn't he?
And absolutely hauled, didn't he? And United at home, again, I remember. I mean, you only have to go back to last season, but he's got a great record against United recently. So scratch that. I don't think I'm selling Salah. I know actually I don't really need to financially. It would be just to fit someone like Saka in, but I think Salah is definitely more consistent and explosive and worth having.
Just on Man United, they're going to be having a new manager bounce by game week 14 anyway. A Graham Potter shaped new manager bounce. I think I can't see him getting anything.
I don't think they will.
Games. Really?
I don't think I'll sack him. Okay. I think he'll have a little bit more time. And it's again, who would you bring in to replace him, because there's certain jobs at the moment which seem to be like a bit of a poison chalice. Man United is one of them. I think you could argue the Chelsea job. They just seem really, really difficult to go in and turn around. So I don't know on United, but I think it's fair to say, we're going to do predictions in a bit, that we shouldn't look at the likes of Chelsea and United as top 6 teams anymore.
Not on this season.
Not on this season. Yeah, exactly.
Rich, kind of thoughts on the next few weeks? It seems to be, after all the excitement of kind of wildcard time and like big fixture swings, we seem to be approaching a bit of a lull for a few weeks.
Yeah, it feels like a lull. I mean, it feels like the sort of, slightly gone off meat in a nice sandwich, doesn't it? Because we were well set up for game weeks 10 and 12, and this is the slightly distasteful bit in the middle. We've got some teams playing each other that we're probably well stacked up on, particularly me. Arsenal and Newcastle face each other this weekend. It's a big game. Looking forward to it. It should be a cracking game, but it's not a great FPL game for us managers to predict. And so it's not ideal, and therefore maybe taking hits or making free transfers this week isn't a good idea. It's probably, I think, what we're seeing, and we'll touch on some of the trends we've seen in the game, but I think there has been a bit of a trend recently for people to keep trying to get an optimal team every week, and really pushing to get the best players every week. So they're taking hits, or they're trying to make sure they've definitely got the captain covered, or whatever. And this feels like a week to just trust your team, just trust the picks you've made, and be patient. Bank that second transfer, because the other side of the international break, there's already some moves that are almost inked in for people. I know you're slightly going ahead to the graphic there, but you've got to start planning now for the period in the run up to Christmas, and that extra bank transfer is going to come in really handy after the international break. So for me, I think it's a roll, and maybe just give the players that you've picked, particularly on wildcard or even on game week 8, well, give them a chance to return, because they still can do,
Yeah.
So, and that graphic, you go back to the fixtures a sec. We've got an international break sandwiched between game week 12 and 13.
Absolutely.
A 2-week gap. So looking at that 4-week view, you haven't really got a clean run. It's almost like you want to take 2 separate 2-week views of the fixtures and sort it that way, and see what they look like. Because of course, teams like Arsenal have got a fantastic fixture next week. Liverpool have got another fantastic fixture. Villa have got another fantastic fixture. So you've got great fixtures in game week 12 for most of our players. So you don't want to go selling them.
No, exactly.
You want to hang on to them because they've got good fixtures next week. So it's funny to see that those sort of mid to low table teams rising to the top of a ticker on a 4-week view is totally, almost like it's totally inverted to how it looked last week, isn't it, when you took game week 10 and took a slightly longer term view. So no, I'm quite happy to stick with the good players and the good teams that that we've got in our teams for now.
You don't choose a wild card team and then rip it up a week later, do you? After a thing. So just a couple of players you pulled out, Rich. Mbeumo obviously returned again. He's looking, no doubt we'll get the old, he only scores in the 90. Well, that's because he plays 90 minutes every week. That's why. He only scores penalties. Well, that's because he's on penalties and the stuff. He's a good asset. He's a really good FPL asset, no matter what anyone says.
I think if you've got him, you obviously hold him now, because he's probably got the highest number of double-figure returns out of all the players. Maybe Son's close to him, but he's got 5 now, I think, 5 double-digit returns.
Crazy.
It's like, guy for 6.7, or he may have gone to 6.8 now, but for 6.7, that's fantastic value. He's got a potential. You've got a blank to navigate with him, but their fixtures from game week 14 are great again. I think they've got Liverpool and Arsenal coming up, so maybe it's one you can wait on. But he's got to be in people's thoughts, and if they get that double in game week 20, he's going to be in everybody's squad by then, and he'll be 7.2 by then, I expect. So you want to get him in for 14 onwards. Other names that caught the eye last week, in particular, if you do have a free transfer, you've got 2 frees, you've got to use one this week. Szoboszlai is starting to look really good for Liverpool as a creator in particular. Maybe he needs a bit more goal threat, but he looks really the real deal. And for 7 mil, we haven't talked about him much at all on the Green Arrow this season. I don't think we've even mentioned him, but he's another.
We've just learned how to say his name, to be fair.
Yeah, that was a first off the cuff attempt.
He was very good, mate. Take that.
Yeah, it's not everybody's cup of tea, that mouthful. So and then right at the front there, this is one of these ones on the wild card where at one point you had him. I got him at 3.9. Banked the 0.1, and then later on in the week I swapped him out for Harry Maguire.
Oh my word. Harry Maguire.
So Jamal Lascelles was in my team from last Sunday onwards, and and now Maguire is sitting there. And why did I buy a United defender? Honestly. So Lascelles looks great value at 4.
Incredible.
Particularly if you're looking to, I think a lot of people might be thinking about coming off Trippier, to free some funds to do something with, then you can still cover the Newcastle defence for a 4 million guy who's nailed for a while. If you didn't see the news, Sven Botman is going to be out for a longer period than anticipated. So Lascelles is pretty nailed. I think they might have even given him the captaincy. I don't know if that's definitely.
He's club captain, isn't he?
He's club captain, yeah.
He is anyway, yeah. So he's nailed for the time being, and you've got a 4 million defender there from the best statistical defence in the league, apart from City, I think. So, or from Arsenal, can't remember. I know they're right up the top for defence and attack, Newcastle. And then, of course, last week's hat-trick hero, Eddie Nketiah. Great pick for those that got him in, but I must admit, I never even considered it. I don't know about you, but
I'm bloody annoyed because I went in game week 1, I went, Arsenal were home to, was it
Forest?
Arsenal were home to Forest, which looked like an incredible fixture. And I went for Havertz because I was convinced he was going to hit the number 9, and he did play the number 9, and he didn't do anything. So and then, you get this fixture, which is, obviously now we know it's better. Gets the number 9, gets a hat trick. But yeah, very well played. Obviously, to I think Praz and and anyone else who picked him was a hell of a pick, and 3 cracking goals as well. It was a hell of a hat trick, wasn't it? He's looking some player, isn't he?
Yeah.
That assist from Saka, unreal.
Not
controversial at all.
I've had ultras writing to me. I think one of yours did that. The people writing saying, "What the hell was that Saka assist all about?" They want an explanation from us.
Yeah. I don't own Saka, but I think I think the intended destination thing is what gives him the assist. And in fairness, there's been a few of those before which I've seen go the other way, but I think given he's so highly owned, they were never not going to give him the assist. And there's enough in it.
Next time I'm whinging about my luck, just remind me of the Charlie Taylor off the bench and the Saka assist in the same game week, and I'll shut my trap. It's very easy to remember your bad luck, but it's very easy to forget the good luck we tend to have sometimes, don't we? So yeah,
indeed.
And David Raya as well as another one. Rich, you just mentioned.
Finally in the corner. I just thought I'd throw him in because I think the latest decision to give Aaron Ramsdale a game last night in the Carabao Cup. I mean, I think that answers the final question about Raya being number 1 or not, or likely to be dropped. So I think
so.
He wasn't great either, was he?
If you're fed up with depending on Areola, or rumor has it Matt Turner might lose his place finally after a couple of iffy performances, and there is a goalkeeper transfer in the waiting. He looks to be now if you're wild carding this week, I'd have Raya on a wild card, just to be different, and then again maybe double on that Arsenal defence.
Yeah. Just looking at the predicted points the next few game weeks, Wilson he's right up there. He's 4th. He's actually predicted to score well this week against Arsenal as well, obviously due to his XG and his point per minute and stuff. But yeah, the usual sort of suspects. Mbeumo was risen, obviously, as his fixtures get a little bit easier as well. But it's not really a kind of massively exciting time this week, or probably next week. Hopefully we'll get some good points when all those really good players play home next week. But I think we wanted to spend a bit of time this week now just kind of talking about FPL sort of generally. We don't really spend a lot of time talking about kind of how our seasons are going and how we play the game. So just got a couple of opening questions, chat. I'm really interested, and obviously feel free at any time to jump in. If you've got any questions in the chat as well, please stick them in, and we'll do our best. But I suppose firstly, can I ask you, Adam, about how do you feel firstly in terms of your season, how do you think you feel you've played this season, and would you have done anything differently? I suppose just to kick the conversation off.
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say, on the whole, I don't think I've done too many things wrong. I think I've played it relatively safe. My rank's not where I want it to be, but I think there's a couple of biases I maybe unearthed that I think have affected me a little bit that I just need to be conscious of. So I think there's 2. There's the one where I've got a slight preference for players that play later in the game week. So, or I think it's the mentality is if I can get through this game without any damage, then I've got all this to look forward to. And I think that possibly even impacted my transfers this week because I was thinking, well, with Saka and the Arsenal games, how great would it be to go into Sunday having Brighton assets, Villa assets, Liverpool assets? So I think there's a slight bias there that I've unearthed. And the other one is actually Villa. And now Villa are obviously a very good team at the moment, which is unusual because most of the time they've been playing FPL, they've either not been in the league or they've been below average. So this makes it really difficult. And I think I bought in Watkins this week because I'm at the games. It's really hard not to own Villa players, but I don't think it was the right decision. I think there was a bit of an opportunity to, and it's easy to say now after the event, but I think there was an opportunity to go with a Darwin in particular. Darwin's the one that I quite like, and maybe take something a bit more exciting and go a little bit cheaper. Rather than play it safe with Watkins. So I think there's a couple of things there, and now I've said them out loud, I'll be mindful of them going forwards. But I don't think I've done too much wrong. I think I wildcarded at the right time, maybe got a couple of the picks wrong, which was fine. But on the whole, I wildcarded to bring Salah in, and Salah actually got, I think, back-to-back double-digit returns. So I think it sort of worked out quite well. So yeah, on the whole, relatively, I don't think I've done too much wrong.
Are you enjoying the season?
Yeah, I've got so I think where I've gone wrong in the past is when you really obsess with what other people are doing and, get obsessed with like X and Twitter and social media, that impacts my enjoyment. So what I tend to do now, and I've done this for a while, is on a Saturday in particular, I switch off my phone, and it helps. I obviously coach for a young football team on a Saturday morning, but then I'll do something with the family, and I won't actually. And it also, Villa don't play on Saturdays, and I don't think we'll ever have a Saturday game again. The way it's go, even this weekend when we're not in Europe, they're putting us on a Sunday. So yeah, so it makes it really easy to switch off, and therefore I'll check the results in the evening or watch match of the day. So I haven't got that. What I used to find is you used to get loads of psychological hits, or you'd have that intensity of checking the score every 2 seconds, and I don't find that's very good for me personally or the mental health side of things. So most of the time, and actually, do you know what? If there's been a mix, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good, but it's I find it a lot easier to absorb in one go, and it builds a bit of excitement up as well, rather than constantly checking the scores every 2 minutes. So for a really good example of this is like with the Mbeumo goal, or with the stuff that happens in the 90th minute. It makes no difference to me whether it happens in the 96th minute or the first minute, because the way I see it, I see the result in most instances. So that helps. And then Sunday, I allow myself to watch the football, watch as much as I can. And there isn't because I've got youth football on Saturday morning, it's more difficult to watch the games. And then on the Saturday evening, I'll do stuff with the family. So yeah, it has an impact on my enjoyment, and I think I've found it fine. And I think where I am at the moment, I'm about 1.5 million, aren't I? And I think there's quite a nice challenge to really push and get into top 100k, top 50k, and I'm looking forward to that. Actually, I'm not. Yeah. I think I've been in this position where I've struggled, and it'd be nice to have the opposite, because I don't very rarely have really good starts. So it'd be good if I could have that, but most of my recent seasons, I've been fighting back from poor ranks, and I think last season I finished the season with my height. I peaked in game week 38, which is, I suppose, what you want to do. The season before wasn't too dissimilar. So yeah, for me, no, I'm enjoying it, and yeah. What about you guys?
How about you, Rich? How do you feel your season's going?
I've had better starts. To be honest, I mean, I think like most other seasons, I set up in the same way. I followed the same process that I share how I set up, and I played it nice and safe. played Peloton FPL, even dubbed it Peloton FPL, which got adopted elsewhere. Difference was, I think, over the first few weeks, the template, if you like, that many of us set up with, it just didn't perform. It didn't deliver against the anticipated fixtures. So that's what's affected, not just me, but many engaged managers' rankings, and we just haven't had the rewards that previous sort of sound fixture planning and sound decision making has revealed. Not that you're expecting to be right up the top, but you're expecting to get a steady start, and that's been a bit disappointing. But before we come on to what we might have done differently, I mean, I think I am enjoying it. I'm enjoying the challenge of it. I think the game is harder. I think what they've done with what they've done with the transfer markets and hyping players' prices, instantly, almost instantly, they've certainly amped up the markets because we've only got 2 premiums and a lot of the players were priced quite low to begin with. You've now haven't really got the luxury to wait until Friday to make your transfers, and that as a result, I've ended up with the very low team value compared to a lot of people, and that's going to make the game even more challenging for me to fight my way through the ranks with a relatively low team value. So, but I enjoy the challenge of that. It's up to me whether I'm still not going to make early transfers for 0.1s. I'm still going to wait for the information and play it my way. But it's going to be challenging as a result because I'm a couple of million down already on many others. So, but I'm enjoying it. I am enjoying it. I just think I'm been a bit slow to react to some of the mediocre performances from teams you would have expected more of. And we don't really need to name them.
In the chat, sorry, I've lost it, but someone said holding on to United and Chelsea for too long, things like that.
Of course. I mean, I've been guilty of that. I still had United, I had Fernandes and Rashford right up to game week 9 because they had games against Sheffield United, they had games against Luton, to come. They had great fixtures, but they have just been they've been awful. They have been awful. I'm sorry if that's United fans in the chat.
They have been. I'm sure they agree with you, Rich.
Yeah. But I had the faith because Rashford was in everyone's team last season. We were triple captain in Rashford.
Absolutely.
And he scored for a cracking goal for England, but it just clearly hasn't got going. So definitely give myself a black mark for the the faith, and also a little bit disappointed with kind of following the crowd with investing in my team Chelsea to a triple level. They weren't performing at a level that was purely a fixtures play to pile in on the likes of Sterling and Nicholas Jackson and stuff, and they just didn't give them long enough. They still need longer to become a proper team. And so I don't think I've played that great. I have to be quite critical. Played quite safely, and now I've got it all to do.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think I'm enjoying this season a lot more than I've enjoyed other seasons when I've had higher ranks. I'm enjoying the fact that there's a lot of content creators and influencers and really engaged managers who are finding it really, really hard this year. And I think I'm in the opposite camp to people who moan because it's harder. You see a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's too hard now. Everyone's getting this," and there's obviously loads of stuff on YouTube. There's the site like the Hub, which gives you your own recommended transfers for your team. There's stats. There's everywhere you look, people are giving you tips. Newspapers, websites, even on Match of the Day. It's everywhere now, right? But it's only going to get worse. But I kind of see it as if you were thinking of if you were finding FPL easy before and having a bit of a win now because it's a bit harder because everyone's getting a bit better. Try and think what would Pep say as Man City manager all of a sudden if all these other teams were just getting better, they were improving, they were investing in different things, and they were getting kind of close to Man City? Do you think Pep would just stamp his foot and cry and be like, I don't want them to get better? Or do you think he would say things like, we need to improve, we need to reinvent ourselves, we need to find new ways to win, we need to find our edge, we need and that's how I kind of think of this sort of thing is there's only going to be more and more, right? There's only going to be more and more content and tips and whatever else. And I just, I'm encouraged this year. Obviously not a rank I want to be 1.6 million. I don't think I've played badly. I've kind of enjoyed it. I'm kind of enjoying the challenge now of trying to find an edge rather than just beating all my mates because they pick N'Golo Kante in their team because they don't know any better. I'm now up against a lot of really good managers, engaged managers, and I enjoy the challenge of trying to beat them. And that's how I'm kind of looking at this season onwards. I've much enjoyed it, much more than the last few seasons, and we'll continue to. The fact I'm up with you two now, and we're all within 3 points of each other. There's going to be a hell of a battle going for, and these decisions we make each week now. It's really good. So yeah. Just in terms of we touched a bit there on how we play the game. It's interesting, Rich, I'll come to you first on this one if that's all right. Just in terms of, have you seen managers change the way they approach the game, or in terms of have you changed the way you play the game? Have you been forced to think a bit differently and things? And what kind of things do you use when you make decisions and things in terms of tools or content?
Yeah, I think I have had to change the way I play. I've always had a fixtures based eye test kind of approach to the game, an old-fashioned way of playing, watch a lot of football, make my decisions based on good players I see who are getting involved and, could do well. But there's so much, so much statistical content, out there. There's so many, we've now got the team leak to deal with. So now, being available to capture information at deadline, particularly around wild card weeks or when one of the big teams is in the early fixture, and the captaincy is up for debate and there's a leak on whether the guy's going to even play, so watching a deadline stream has become part of my Saturday morning life. I don't think to play golf on a Saturday morning because I've got to be near the web to understand the emergence of any late team news. That's certainly part of my life that's changed. I still prefer the written article. I still look at a lot of the Hub team reviews. I give a shout out to Chris Town, who writes an excellent, captain decision article with all the metrics to support it. He's one of our ultra coaches, and Chris does a great job at crunching all the numbers, both post matches and pre game weeks. I always read his article. I read the other guys' reviews, and the ticker will always be king for me. A long term view on the fixture ticker. We've got a great one on the Hub, but that's always the thing I go to, and I'm always looking, just 3 to 4 weeks ahead in terms of the the transfer picks that I'm over the longer term view and the longer term planning. Yeah, so those are some of the ways I play the game, and there's a lot more content that I'm consuming. I've not really been a numbers guy quite so much, although XG, XGI, etc. is much more in my available to me to look at, when I'm considering a transfer than I used to. I used to completely ignore it, but now it's so easy to access it that I do look at it.
Some really
long answer, sorry.
No, it's really good. It's some really interesting stuff in the chat as well off kind of many of us. Brian says much harder this year. Muldoon says, in terms of how we play the game, how do you feel about continuing to use the leaks? He's mentioned the leaks. I think for me personally, I'm just going to use them. I understand he says it leaves a bad taste in the mouth, and let's face it, it's cheating. If that's what you think, I kind of get it. I think it's interesting with the leaks. I think there's a lot of hypocrisy on social media on certain things around. You see something bandied around, and everyone piles on and jumps on. Yet these leaks are kind of illegal, aren't they? But no one's got a problem with them because it suits them. I'm a bit. I don't want to go. I won't go any further than that because I'll get myself into a rabbit hole I don't want to get down. But there definitely seems to be a thing of when things suit people, they can be horrified, and then they're more accepting of others. But a really good point. A point of John, which is a brilliant point, says, I personally don't enjoy the price rise side. I'm not engaged enough to be following all the time. Prefer to make transfers late. I am completely with you, John. That for me is the only part of the game which spoils it for me, is having to check every bloody day. I just don't. I don't enjoy that part of
when
it.
when you're going to bed and you're supposed to be winding down, and you're not even supposed to have any blue light at bedtime. You've got to check FPL statistics or the hub fixture price rise guide to see if someone's going up, and then you can't go to sleep because you're worried about losing value on a player. I mean, it's awful, isn't it? You know, you get rid of
them. I think there's no exact science on it. You'll see on any of the price rise websites, someone's at 120% and definitely going up and they won't, etc. And they've never been crystal clear on what the formula is. I disagree on price rises because I think it's with more and more engaged managers and the number of players going up, I think what you almost need is, if there were not price rises, everyone would wait until after the team news. It would be logical to do so. So therefore we'd have more similar teams. We'd have more, we'll all have the same budget. So there would be that optimal team for the one size fits all. So I think it drives decisions and behavior and forces people into more dilemmas.
Take risk,
exactly. And it tests your discipline in terms of, well, do you know what? I value information more than I do the point one. But then there's there's times where actually the more aggressive players will benefit, particularly maybe when they're doing wild cards, etc. So I think it promotes different styles of play and variety in the game. So whilst it's frustrating, and I get equally frustrated like both of you with exactly the scenarios you presented, I think it makes the game more competitive and evens it up a little bit. And because I wouldn't say any of us are really big risk takers. So, but there are big risk takers that will make their transfers on a Monday because they know that they'll get the best team value, or they'll be able to access a player. So I think that's fine in terms of I've no issue with the price rise. The team leaks, though, I do have an issue with, because I think FPL had an opportunity to do something about this, and they obviously moved the kickoff with the deadline. Was it only 15 minutes 2 years ago, which makes no difference
30
really.
Minutes it was an hour, now it's an hour and a half.
Yeah. So they've moved the deadline. I think for me, go earlier, make it Friday night, make it a time where you're going to get little close to zero leaks, and I think that would make a level playing field for everybody. So I would have no issue if they put the deadline. Let's say it's a Saturday 12:30 kickoff. Maybe they do it at 10 p.m. on a Friday night or something along those lines. But something there where you're going to get no advantage from the leaks.
I would actually go the other way. I mean, I think it's been well discussed this, but
the other way would be equally.
I'd go first kickoff. I'd literally say I'd prefer that, because then the teams come out anyway for that first match an hour before. You can see who's playing. You don't get caught out. It's the getting caught out. If you say Captain Haaland, you're out, I don't know, doing the shopping, looking after your kids, whatever you're doing, and you find out your captain is not playing because you're living your life. You're just living a normal life, and your team is completely and utterly toast for the week because you weren't there in that hour looking for team leaks. And I think that's awful. I think you move it to first kickoff. It gives people in different time zones the same playing field to play off, and maybe an extra hour in bed, etc., etc. And basically, that's the fair thing to do.
The only issue with
one of your questions for later, Fergie, was what would you do differently? That would be the one thing I'd ask for. That would be the one thing I'd ask.
The only issue with that is that I think for the first game, fine, but I think you'd consistently be getting leaks for the 3 o'clock kickoffs, which would cause the issues that are there at the moment. I don't think you'd get rid of them. So that's why, because I it's slightly different in Sky, because with Sky you've got the deadlines each day, so it's not just, you've typically got 2, maybe 3 in a game week. But I think you'd get equally. You'd get leaks for the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and you'd still get people gaining an advantage. I think by going really, really early, you just take the advantage pretty much away from everyone. But I think either way, I would like to see it addressed, and I was surprised it wasn't, because there was a big uproar and there was a lot of people talking about it, and everyone will say it's unfair, and then take advantage of it because you don't want to be left behind. So I get that, but I think it needs looking at.
It's an interesting one because I'm very competitive in lots of things, and my thing is, well, if you're willing to put the time aside in your weekend or your day to benefit from things, then I think you should be rewarded. But I also get a thing, and Ron has said, and I completely get this, that it is, it's promoted now as a worldwide game, and there are people all over the world. Ron has said they just crush. It's it's the middle of the night when these rumors come, and they got no chance for them. So I totally get that as well. It's very interesting though. Again, is like I don't think there's an easy solution. The fact that both of you guys, for example, have gone to both extremes for it proves that there's not an easy answer to kind of any of that, is it?
No.
In terms of what would you introduce or kind of change about the game, I'm very interested as well. And I know we don't want to change the game per se, because obviously it's incredibly popular because of what it is. But if there were one or two things, either about the rules of the game or about different ways you'd approach it, what would your thoughts be on that, Adam? Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a few actually. I would like to see FPL introduce different avenues for points.
Completely
so
agree.
It could be, and this is where I think Sky's probably got the slight advantage over FPL. So it could be, for example, and I think this is with the bigger audience, it's going to get people thinking again, and you'd have to keep it simple, but it could be as simple as with the BPS system, rather than just awarding 3, 2, 1 points. I would do it based on what BPS they score. Yeah. Well, this is the one that I would do actually. Yeah. So I think I've promoted this before, but let's say if you get above 30 BPS, you get 3 points, above 25 2, above 21, whatever it would be, but it would give.
You could have half a dozen scorers in a game. Yeah, absolutely. You score bonus rather than 3.
What you get at the moment is there's certain games where it tends to be where it's 1-1 or 2-1, so the clean sheet's gone, so no defenders are getting bonus, and maybe there's been an own goal in there, and you're getting people on really low BPS getting like 22 BPS getting 3 bonus, whereas there's another game where 3 or 4 or 5 players have been really contributed to the game, but they're not getting bonus. So I personally would shift it. And you could actually make it even more fun, that if somebody gets over 50, they get 5 points, or however you would do it. If they get 100 if they get 100 BPS, which is very, very, it's very rare to achieve. I think Watkins has this season. Jesus definitely did when he scored 4 in a game. Maybe you get bonus 10 points, whatever it would be. But I think to use the BPS and reward the player based on their score, and you'll get some defensive midfielders sneak 20 points and maybe get a bonus point for that. So that would be I think for me, that's my favourite change of the lot. The other thing that I would do.
Just Adam, again, can I just expand on that point? Just before we go off that point.
Yeah, of course.
The other games do a good job of this, particularly Dream Team this year. I find FPL scoring very binary. If you look around your team, it's either 0, 1, 2, 6 or whatever. It's just it's boring as well, right? And I think that other teams have things like bonus for number of shots. That there are kind of shots on target. Certain games now you get a point for a shot on target, or you get a point for a big chance created. You get number of point. You get a point for every 2 tackles, for example, and things. And as you said, I think this is the thing: is players are being rewarded for their contribution to the game. Like if you think of PI, it's incredibly basic. You only get points for goals or assists, really, right? Because any bonus points normally spawns off the back of those. So I think there's definitely something there, and those other games are more engaging. I also think you could give more points. I totally agree with your bonus point thing, but less more points is more exciting, right? Imagine having a point for a shot on target, or a point for every 2 tackles, or a point for a tackle and things. It brings so many more players into the pool as well. Imagine a point for a tackle. Or, all of a sudden you've got players like Polinia, even Nakamba, who is smashing it this year. Players like that. It brings them more into the pool. So I just wanted to expand on that point because that's my number one as well, is making more points available for their actual contributions in the game, because there's so many players have incredible games, and I'm even talking about attacking players, but they get zero reward. It's all down to who is going to get the goals, who's going to get the assists. So yeah, thanks
Completely
for that point,
agree.
Adam.
Completely agree. And I think if they wanted to stick it unique to their game, they could use the BPS system, but be creative with it. So it could be, you could go as low as 15 points, get you 15 on the baseline, gets you 1 point. However they did it, I think they can keep it unique to that. They might want to take out the points for, or they might want to review the points for goals and assists. But I think if you use that as a metric to give out extra points, I would like that. The other thing that I would do, and I'm frustrated. This is I don't expect them to do the BPS one, although I think it'd be a great idea. I'm frustrated with them keeping the same chips. I think it's boring. Freshen it up. So there's some other fantasy games which I believe are made by the same people. So if you look at the Norwegian one, or there's things like the Rich Uncle, or where you can have a free hit and just you've got unlimited budget. Even if they, gave us chips for the first half of the season and the second half of the season, got rid of chips completely. Just do something fresh.
Do something, shake it up. Yeah, I mean, I've been waiting to join in with this. I mean, my personal preference. This is such a killjoy. I'd get rid of them all. I'd actually get rid of them all, because it would make for less variance, and it would make the game harder.
What about one wild card or a couple of wild cards?
I'd go down to one wild card. I'd get completely ditched the triple captain. I think the captaincy is enough of a differentiator. I'd ditch the bench boost because I think it's a load of rubbish. I have one wild card a season. So that's just one wild card, one free hit, and that's it. And that's what I would go to. Or I would be quite happy if they said we're going to get rid of the captaincy. I'd be quite happy with it. I honestly, just to reduce the variance down. But people would say, "Oh, you boring git."
Well, this is it, Rich. I wrote what I've written down and what I would change about the game is I'm personally a bit of a purist like you, and says I want it to be hard. I want it to be a grind. Yeah, I want it to be a real. You have to have discipline and whatever else. So I completely, and I've put more purist, scrap chips, scrap captaincy, and whatever else. Yeah. However,
we wouldn't be able to do our spaffometer anymore.
We wouldn't. However, we obviously need to think about making the game entertaining for those who are not as hardcore, and for new players as well. There are some boosters this year on one of the other teams that's interested. You get a 12th man 1 week, so where you're like incredibly scared of one player for 1 week, you haven't got them, you can play a 12th man and you get an extra player for a week. And there's like a park the bus, which is really interesting actually, where you get get double points for your defense for 1 week, for example. You could have the opposite. You could have double points for your attack for 1 week and stuff. And the third one is max captain, where if you play the chip and you're really unsure, say Salah's home to Sheffield United and Haaland's home to Luton, you play your max captain chip, which means that it will automatically go on whoever scored the most points retrospectively. So
you get the best.
It's just examples of different things they could do that are kind of interesting.
Just make it more fun,
exactly.
It would make it more fun. Yeah, but they'll probably just keep it the same forever.
I think the other thing would be on captain. So vice captain, one of and actually for subs as well, is if your vice captain comes in, you get like 1.5 times the points, or your subs come in, there's a slight deduction, because I think if you've picked to start a player or you've picked to captain a player, you should benefit more than somebody your player hasn't, who's picked them as second choice. So I don't know how you would do that, but I think that for me would be another one to look at. Yeah. Or you could say with your vice captain, you get double for your captain, and your vice captain you get, I don't know, an extra something. That might overcomplicate it a bit though, so I'll reject that. I'll retract that.
I've got one more before we move on, which I think is so easy to implement, and again it lends itself to the more engaged manager and someone who's more of a planner. But I think I would allow for a second transfer to be rolled.
Oh, I love that.
Completely agree. I've got that as my
which
one.
would give you a maximum of 3 that you could use. You could roll for 2 weeks, and then you could have your little mini wildcard with 3 transfers because you patiently set up your team. You're happy with the fixtures. You planned it out. You're diligent, and you can allow that second roller. And it's so easy to implement that. You just allow it to a maximum of 3.
Bet365 this year let you save an unlimited amount. You can save for 6 weeks if you want.
Yeah, I would go with that. Yeah, I think.
Why not?
Why
not? Like talk about variation. What you'd get is the variety of teams you would have would be insane because the strategies would be so different. You could have a player not making a transfer for 4 weeks, and all of a sudden they're playing like get 4 transfers in one hit for these massive swings, save your wild card. Whereas players like me who can't resist, I would be, I can't close my transfer every week. You'd have such a variation of teams. It'd be so much fun.
It'd be great, wouldn't it?
And
a wild card every 14 weeks.
And the other one, which I like, again, they brought this into Dream Team this year, and it is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And at first you may go, no, you can't do that, but it's 2 free transfers per week, and what that allows you to do, again, it allows much more variation in teams. It allows you to change your team quite significantly every week. You can change the structure of your team. You can do Haaland and whoever to Salah and someone, and it just allows you. Like I sometimes find FPL can be like this week quite boring. Because you only get 1 transfer, so you're not, you can't afford to take a punt. It means this week we can look at the fixtures, say, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to take a punt on someone for this 1 week, knowing you can get out of it the week after. So again, it's maybe not one for the absolute purists, like even like myself, who want it to be a bit of a grind, but for fun value and entertainment and engagement value, it is fantastic. I'm really enjoying it.
I like that. What about they did this on, I think it was Ultra FPL, whatever it was called, but you used to be able to do loans. So you could do 4 loans a season. So maybe if you've got a player who's out for a loan, could be 1 or 2 weeks or whatever it would be. But then you automatically at that point revert back to whoever you had before. So you could have like 4 loans a season. But there's loads of things you could, and we discussed some interesting arguments. Appreciate they're not for all, but I'm just disappointed they did nothing. Yeah. And I think even if the chips were changed, that would have been something, because they used to change things up, a little bit like how they did the bonus points. There used to be changes, and it made it more exciting, in my opinion.
We're having a lot in the chat saying how boring we all are, miserable gits for talking all this stuff, but it's not. It's just a way of, I don't know. It's just. There's a lot of good ideas there, just a way to just freshen up a little bit, just make us think a bit differently rather than, the same old kind of, as I say, the same old thing every week. Like rolling a transfer, let's be honest, this week, and captaining Haaland. Where's the...
It's as you were.
Where's the excitement? Where's the engagement? There's just and there's so many things you can do to make it a bit more fun, can't we? But yeah, good chat, guys. Just finally, before we move on to our teams for the week, just a bit in terms of predictions. I'm going to put you on the spot first, Rich. I want you to predict the 1, 2, 3 of us 3 this season finishing in FPL.
In our little
absolutely.
With 3 points between us?
Come on, I won the 1, 2, 3.
Oh wow, okay, all right. Well, I'll try and be modest. I think Adam's going to win it this year.
Okay.
I've beaten him the last couple of years, but I think he's going to get there this year. Don't know why. Just feel I'm not having a great season, so I think I'll come second.
Not that modest then. Right.
No, but I think Adam's having a good season, so I think he's gonna come out on top of the 3 of us. That's just my prediction.
Adam, what's your prediction?
I hadn't prepared for this.
Exactly,
so,
that's what I did. I want it off the cuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I think without sitting on the fence, it could get, I think we're all good managers in our own right. It could go anyway, and it is really, really nicely poised. So I can see scenario.
You're not getting away with that.
But anything I say, there's scenarios where all of us can win it. We've all beat each other before in seasons. I mean, Rich is top at the moment, so. But I don't know, Fergie. I could actually see you. I could actually see you winning it. I wouldn't. I think it's nicely poised at the moment. and so to balance it up, I'll give you first.
Who's second?
Rich second.
Okay.
Me third.
Okay.
Take the pressure off myself as well.
I think I'm going to go with. I think the way the season is going to play out, it looks like it's going to be kind of I think it's going to be a boring season. I think we're going to have the double in 20, aren't we? And then we're going to have smallish blanks and doubles, which I've always tended to do much better in those seasons than in these massive ones.
It's going to be a good season for grinding.
It is. So
So Fergie, you're picking yourself, aren't you?
No. All I'm saying is on that run of like 5 seasons where I did really well, they were just very typical seasons. I've really struggled basically since COVID season. I just cannot.
Well, there's always been
my
something,
head around.
hasn't there, in the last 3 or 4 years?
I cannot get my head around these massive double game weeks and things in the blank. So I don't enjoy them. So I feel we're all going to have good seasons. I know at the moment our ranks don't really suggest that, but like I say, I'm enjoying the challenge of this. And just for the sake of argument, for the 1, 2, 3, I will go for. I agree with you, Rich. I think Adam is going to win. But just to even
don't put the pressure.
I think I'm going to come second, Rich, and I think you're going to come third this season.
All right.
We will see.
Oh,
We'll revisit this back in May when I'm like 200 points behind you guys. But we'll see. And finally, just predict the top 4. Of who of the Premier League season. Really interesting league. I saw something that is it Spurs where a team top after 10 game weeks or 9 game weeks or something like that hadn't finished outside the top 3 in Premier League history or something. So it's interesting to see where this happens. But who's going to go first? Adam, go to first. Top 4.
Yeah, I think there are 3 teams that I'm quite confident of finishing the top 3, and I think City will win the league. I think Liverpool will be second, and Arsenal third. I then think, I know Spurs have had a really good start, but I actually think Spurs, Newcastle and Villa are very, very close. I don't think there's much in between them at all. I'd argue over the long term, Villa have been the best of the 3. Since Emery's come in, Villa have been so consistent for a period of time. And I think any one of those teams could finish 4th. I think that'll be the top 6. Am I going to back? Do you know what?
Do it.
I don't want to give Villa the kiss of death here. I don't want to do that. I think Spurs have got an advantage on us, so I'll go Spurs 4th.
Okay.
In terms of points at the
moment. Rich, top 4?
I think it's the same 3. I'd go City, Liverpool, Arsenal in that order, and then it's probably a bias because of my own fantasy team, and I just think they're going really, really well at the moment. I think Newcastle will come 4th. I don't think that. I think they've strengthened. They've got. You saw the game last night. They thrashed United away with their B team. I think they are strong enough to sustain the Champions League run. They may go out of the Champions League because they're in a bit of a group of death, in which case that will clear some of their schedule. And I just think they're strong enough. And if they're dropping down a bit, they'll buy big in January, and they'll I think they'll have enough to come through and take that 4th place. I really like the way they're playing. I like their attack and defence. If they need to go and buy a mega striker, they will. So yeah, Newcastle's to pit Tottenham. I just don't think if Tottenham lose Sonny or Maddison to an injury,
that's
who's coming.
That's
in
my
for
biggest
them.
fear.
That's the problem. They've got to stay fit, those 2, and they haven't got the reserves to. I mean, Charlison can't step up. Brennan Johnson.
Bentancur is coming back. Bentancur is a very, very good player.
But, that's the issue with Tottenham. I like them. I like the way they're playing. I think they've got a great manager, but I just think they'll come 5th.
I think for me, it's all on Son. I think if Son can stay fit, I think they've got a chance. I think the fact they're not in Europe is massively beneficial to them this year. They'd also got the Carabao Cup, so I think it's all down to Son and his fitness. Now, historically, he's quite a fit player. He doesn't get injured very often. And I do think in Brennan Johnson, all right, he's very young, he's very raw, but I do think he's a really good player. Bentancur is coming back. I think we've got an incredible manager. Like, I knew he was good, but I've been amazed with just how brilliant he's been, and he will not let them slack off. You absolutely see he was furious the day when they beat, who did they beat? Palace 2-0. Fulham, you're right.
Yeah.
On the Monday night, he was fuming because they eased off in the second half. So he will not let standards slip. I think the fact they haven't got Europe is massive for them. So I still think Man City will win the league. I think Liverpool are decent, but I still think they've got weaknesses. I still think the team, that new midfield is kind of knitting together. I still don't think they know their best front three. Arsenal rock solid. I do think Spurs have got off to an incredible start and they'll keep going as long as Son stays fit. So I'm going to go City. I'm going to go Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool. But, Villa, Newcastle. I just think with Newcastle, I think that depending if they get through in the Champions League, I think they'll find it hard. And I just think for teams like Villa, West Ham, Brighton, I just think having Europe is going to cause an issue somewhere down the line, especially if they go deep. I think Villa will go deep, obviously, because they're in the Conference League, aren't they? So I think it may cause issues. So, but yeah, really good chat, and let us know in the in the chat of what you think of those top four. Really good point. Asia Cup is this season. I think AFCON's this season as well. So a lot of teams are gonna miss a lot of players in this time as well, which will be really, really interesting. So but good stuff, gents, and thanks for that chat. It's good to kind of just take a step back sometimes around this game and just chat it from a bit of a more macro level.
Yeah, it's good.
Captaincy for game week 10, probably a bit of an easy one this week. 78% of the votes goes to. Can anyone guess who is going to this season?
No, I have no idea. Who's second? I'm more interested in that.
Salah, 15% of the vote.
Okay.
Haaland, 78%. Home
Salah's away to Luton. I mean, I have had a few people contact me this weekend, desperate to get Haaland back in, and all sorts of transfer suggestions. Particularly people who may have wildcarded and spread the funds around. It's not easy to get a £14 million player in, but Salah's got Luton away. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that game.
No, there's not. Absolutely, bloody dreadful.
Just go against the the rather frightening herd and just back Salah.
Especially if you've got Alvarez, which I think a lot of probably non-Haaland owners have.
Exactly.
Maybe. So.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know. You're going to need a big sofa, though, aren't you?
You are going to need a big sofa for that. Is that on telly, the Bournemouth game?
No, I think it's a 3:00 Saturday, isn't it?
It's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, that's I'd be worried as a non-Haaland owner.
Fergie is a punt, and I'm on form, gents. I didn't realise 3 weeks ago I picked Darwin, and he's got 5, 4, 10. 2 weeks ago I picked Simicast, 6, 6. And I picked Evan Ferguson last week for an 8-pointer. So I'm on 100% strike rate for the last 3 weeks, which is good going after my pretty horrific start, I must say. This week I'm going with someone. He's not on anyone's radar really, which I kind of get. It's a bit of a tough one because I normally look at like the top of the ticker and look at the teams who've got good fixtures, but I'm not going for a Burnley or Sheffield United player like that because I don't really fancy any of them. But clue is the player I've gone for. He's pretty nailed at the moment. He's playing 90 minutes most games. Fixture's not amazing, but they have got 3 out of 4 at home, and I think this player is kind of a big game player. I really like him. And their fixture this week especially is absolutely sublime. Any quick thoughts on that one?
Let me have a look. No, it's not who I think it is. So they've got a good fixture this week. Big game.
United this week.
Oh no! So hang on. So 3 out of 4 at home.
Yeah, 3 out of 4 at home. Really good fixture this week.
City have got 3 out of 4 at home. So it's probably going to be a City play. You've talked about the fixture. You're not going to go Alvarez. You're not going to go Haaland. So do process of elimination. I don't think Grealish is explosive enough. It's got to be Foden, hasn't it?
Phil Foden is the one for me for the next 4 game weeks. I think he's a kind of player who can he can do well against Bournemouth. I thoroughly expect City to put 3, 4, 5 past Bournemouth on the weekend. But he also seems to turn up in the big games. I think at times, don't he? And I really think it could be the time for him. Away to Chelsea's maybe not the best, but home to Liverpool, home to Spurs after that. I think it's quite decent for Foden. I think it's decent for City. So, I think I fancy him to return. Or do something in the next few games personally. But yeah, I'm on form, gents, so you may want to go with me. It's completely up to you.
Yeah.
Adam, we've got your team on screen for this week. Probably the most boring team reveal ever for this week. I can't imagine there's a whole lot of activity going on, but you just want to talk us through your team for...
Yeah. Okay. So my team is... I've got a few decisions. So I've gone with Areola in goal away at Brentford. I think the Hub AI disagrees with me, but I'm not playing Turner against Villa. Yeah, exactly. It's not a chance I'm doing that, and he's he's possibly at risk of being dropped as well. Right. So I think I'll stick with Areola, and I can see that game. I think Brentford struggle when they have the majority of possession, and against West Ham, I think they could. So I actually quite. I mean, I know West Ham got a few players out, but I think it'll be quite. West Ham will sit back, and that doesn't suit Brentford at all. They struggle with that. Their strength is hitting teams on the break and set pieces, and West Ham are good at combating both of those. So yeah, I'll start with Areola. I've then got Cash and Anderson. Now the third defender's a tough one because I could realistically start. So it's between Gabriel away at Newcastle, Burn at home to Arsenal, or Charlie Taylor at home to
Goal machine Charlie Taylor.
Yeah, I'm not starting Charlie. I'm not starting Charlie Taylor because I think Palace will win that and potentially keep a clean sheet. And I think Eze and Elise could be back, and I just don't trust their defence. So it's either Gabriel or Burn. Both good defences. I think last season Newcastle lost 2-0 to Arsenal at home. So Arsenal away from home are really, really good, and it's a team that stopped City as well.
Do you think he's going to start?
Gabriel, yeah, I think he'll start. Okay. I think, yeah, he'll play his best.
It'll be Gabriel and Saliba.
Yeah, he'll play his best team, surely. I think it'd be a mistake not to start him.
Yeah, okay.
QB 3 games in a row.
But I don't know which way to go, whether to go. But my gut is saying start Gabriel, because I think the way Arsenal are more likely to approach it is to try and nick a win, and their away form defensively has been quite good, other than the Chelsea slip up. But I think over a longer period of time they've been very, very good defensively. So I'm starting Gabriel at the moment, but that could flip to Burn. I've then got Son, Bowen, Matoma, Diaby, and Salah vice captain, and then Watkins and Haaland, Haaland captain. So I'm going to save a transfer subject to not having any injuries or team news.
Rock hard 7-man front line, that isn't it?
Yeah, I sort of regret bringing Matoma in, but then his fixtures are good, and hopefully he'll come good for me. So yeah, relatively happy with that. Who would you guys start out with, Gabriel and Burn?
Not very exciting, is it?
I'm about to come on to that. I mean, I'd always back the home player. Back the defender with the home fixture. I think you're more likely to get a clean sheet. I mean, Newcastle at home are very strong. It doesn't really matter who they're playing.
Definitely not Charlie Taylor.
I think I'd play Taylor. I think I'd play Taylor and take.
That's what I'm considering.
I think Arsenal Newcastle will be like a 2-2 or a 1-1 or something like that. I think there'll be goals in it, and I think Taylor is more likely to get a clean sheet than either of the other two.
You don't like that. You don't like that, don't you?
No, I don't. I can't start.
Look at the way Palace played against Spurs. Palace have been pretty poor. They lost 4-0 to Newcastle. They lost 2-0 at home to Spurs. Yeah, they've not really done anything.
They tend to do well. I read something. I can't remember the record, but Hodgson's record against bottom half and newly promoted teams is pretty good. So I think I'm going to bat, and I think if I look back to this season, they beat Sheffield United. Who else have they played? They haven't played it. They've actually had quite a tough fixture run. I don't know. I see this as a Palace win and potential clean sheet. So I could see either Newcastle or Arsenal keeping a clean sheet. The problem is I just don't know which one. I think it'll be a 1-0. I just don't know which way to go. And the goal threat's pretty good for both of them as well. So the thing is, Arsenal are quite good defensively away. Newcastle are quite good at home. But Newcastle are more likely to really go for it with the crowd, which could mean that Arsenal sit back and try and hit on the counter-back, so it's the counter-attack, so maybe a better defensively. I don't know. It's a tough one. I'm interested in people's thoughts, but my gut is Gabriel at the moment.
AI suggests that you sell Gabriel for Simicast are of interest.
Yeah.
I can't.
Not a bad shout.
I'm not interested in Gabriel. I don't know. He's just rotation prone for me now.
He's been an absolute nightmare. I've owned him since the start, and then all of a sudden he gets dropped again last week. I do think he'll play Sunday. I do think he's in their strongest 11, but I think he's probably likely to play Sunday and the Champions League game, and then be dropped again for Burnley.
You don't want someone like that on your team. I go to Simicast.
Getting rid of him, I think, is a good idea.
I'd follow the AI, Adam. At least you got a decent player with a decent fixture this week.
Well, I checked the AI earlier and it said roll a transfer. So, and it did say earlier in the week, Simicast. I'll have a look now.
Maybe it's updated. If you,
I don't know. I think for me, I want to save a transfer this week, and I can see a clean sheet for one of the teams. I do agree with you, Rich. I think the Burnley game is a doubt, but that's not a huge issue for me because I've got all of my other defenders. I think Burnley's away at Bournemouth, Cash is at home to Fulham, and Anderson's at home to Everton. So it's not a huge issue for me if he is rested for that fixture.
Okay, Rich, let's have a look at your team. Slightly different dilemmas. Harry Maguire looking at you from the bench. Do you want to talk us through your team?
He's welcome to sit on the bench as well. So yeah, I think I'm going to go strong on Newcastle. It is my little bit of a differential for me. I've got 3 Newcastle players. I'm not really worried about the difficulty of their home fixtures. I just think they're very strong at home. So I'm going to play Shah, Gordon, and Wilson in this game.
Wow.
And back a Newcastle victory. I still think they're putting up over 2 XG per every game. And I want my differentials to get me some gain. So I'm going to be bullish and play both of them. The rest of the team's pretty template, playing Saka, Mitoma, Watkins, Haaland as captain, Salah vice captain. I've got Simicast in, and he's doing very well. Cash is my other defender playing. They've got Villa this week. Nottingham Forest away, decent chance of some returns there. AI seems to have put Turner in, but I'm not playing Turner, I'm playing So I will play Ario in that game. One question I did have is: would you? There's a bit of rumour that Palmer may play up front for Chelsea through the middle against Tottenham. He's obviously on pens. He's probably our best player at the moment. Would you play him over Gordon, or would you play Gordon at home to Arsenal?
Tough one. I think. I think Spurs will win that game. So I think you're right on the Arsenal. I could see it's going to go for me. It's going to go. I think one team will win 2-0, and I just can't call which way it's going to go. So I think if you're bullish on Newcastle, start Gordon. I would. He's looked good, and
he played through the middle on Wednesday, so he could share minutes with Wilson in that position anyway. I just feel that. Palmer's probably got to drop to the bench for most of these fixtures, but he is playing well. He looks a really good pick. It's not too late to get him in, folks. If you want an enabler, he does look good. It's just Chelsea's fixtures are so tough, and I do have that down as a fairly comfortable Tottenham win. Actually, mate, I don't see us doing anything.
We're about comfortable, but I think we'll win 2-1 maybe. Yeah. Recommended transfer this week was to bank for yourself, Rich, which sounds like you are doing. My team, quite similar to yours. AI recommends I play Taylor ahead of Udogie and Gabriel. Udogie, we don't know what's happening with him. He could be. There was a suggestion earlier he's done his ligaments, so he may be out for another week or two. So I'll have a decision to make between Taylor and Gabriel, and I think I'll be playing Taylor. Goal machine, as you say, Rich. Taylor, but Gabriel, like the worst thing that could happen, right, is he doesn't start, which, all right, he may, right? But we've been saying this all season. Like, we've had so much stick at the hub off people saying, why have you got Gabriel's minutes so low? Well, it's because he's a rotation risk. He is. He's not play. How many games has he played? 10. and they haven't started like 3 or 4, like nearly half of them.
Yeah, at least 4,
he's a rotation risk. It doesn't matter. Like he is. So that's why I think I'm just going for Taylor. It's like home to Palace is probably as good as it gets this moment from a defensive view. I don't expect a clean sheet, right? But I'd rather 2 points from Charlie Taylor than 1 point from Gabriel. I know it's incredibly boring to think, but and obviously I'll probably start Udogie if I get any hint he'll be fit. Son, Salah, Gordon, Saka, Mitoma, Watkins, Haaland, captain. I think it's one of those weeks you just tick them off, really, don't you? You tick them off. You hope you get a greeny grey arrow and then move on to more exciting game week 12. I think.
Yeah, I think we're heading for a fairly low scoring game week. Overall, I think we've had 2 very high scoring game weeks, predominantly the last 2. But I think this one will be, apart from Haaland, who everyone will score off on the captain anyway. I think we'll see. We'll see about 50 odd points. I think something around that.
I'm not sure we'll see that much, mate. To be honest, maybe if Haaland smashes it,
high 40s or something. Yeah.
Maybe if Haaland gets a couple of goals, but yeah, I can't see much for elsewhere. Yeah. And my recommended transfer is Gabriel to Burn. However, if I was to make a transfer, I think I'd be bringing in Lascelles and saving the 0.7 or whatever it is now. So that would. One. But I'm going to leave it till next week. I'm going to save till next week, and then my plan probably next week is to do a double move, probably bringing in Lascelles for someone, which will enable 0.8 or whatever to bring in someone else elsewhere. That's my loose plan. But that is it from us for this week. Thank you so much for everyone who joined in the chat. Those who are going to watch it back and those listening to the podcast versions, your support, as usual, is very, very much appreciated. We hope you enjoy this kind of different kind of podcast. We thought we'd take the opportunity to have a different kind of chat, obviously with not too much to talk about this week. Adam, thanks for joining us. Where can people get hold of you?
At Twitter, at Hopta Stats.
Lovely stuff. And Rich, thank you so much, as usual. Where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter.
Lovely stuff. And my Twitter handle is at FFH_Fergie. This podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast videos available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. If you haven't already, please press like. Remember to subscribe to the channel at the bottom right hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. Drop us 5 stars and a comment on Apple or wherever you listen. It would be much, much appreciated. Be back next week previewing Game Week 12. In the meantime, the very, very best of luck for Game Week 11. And may all your arrows be green. Good night all.